mentioned this before in a prior episode of the Week in Review for St. Clair Range, but that's a lot of money. $1 million is a lot of money for this small business. That's a big deal. And so they've got this $1 million they can't collect, and it's going to drive them into insolvency. We will be doing a restructuring for this business sooner rather than later, I believe. If they had the $1 million, they may not be insolvent, which is a test. When you file for restructuring, to restructure your debts and come out the other side cleaner, you do a self-admission that you are insolvent. Why is the customer not paying the client? Are they broke? Do they not have the money? No. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, super profitable. They have all the cash. It's not an issue. They just don't want to pay. And why don't they want to pay? Because they are claiming what is called offset. Offset is, yeah, we owe you money, but you also owe us money, and so we're just not going to pay each other. That's what's going to happen. And the customer claims that the client owes the customer more than the customer owes the client. In other words, my client is net negative on this, and the customer wants their net cash. Now, why might you ask? You might ask why. You might ask why the client actually owes the customer as opposed to just the other way around. Well, it appears it's because there's some sort of non-contractual side agreement whereby the customer buys the goods that are produced by my client. It buys them and then sells them to an end user, okay, packaged up with some other stuff. I'm just trying to be as generic as I possibly can here. Well, the customer has to disclose to the end user what the cost of this particular piece is that is provided by my client, and they're not supposed to be taking a markup. But what they do is they gross up hugely. They reprice in a sense, so that they gross up hugely the cost of my client's input to this entire process. And then what happens is the end user pays the customer the gross up amount. The customer pays the client the grossed up amount, so that there's a paper trail, so that if the customer is audited by the end user, they can do that. And what the client is forced to do is to pay a kickback to a related company that is related to the customer. So that, again, if the customer is audited by the end user, they don't the end user can't see this incoming deposit as a kickback. So it goes to a related company. So